All right, let's get this show on the road. We're not sponsored, but we do promote the Zen life. That's how you know it's going to be uncut and raw once you bust out the Zen packs. Which, by the way, I moved away from Zen for a while and went with the Lucy Breakers, which were super tasty and very good. But the problem with Lucy Breakers is I did some research on them. Since they have like a ball in there that you kind of crush, there's more flavoring and it's not as clean. And apparently the spearmint and peppermint are the cleanest Zens out there because, you know, we're all about that health and that lifestyle. So cool. So this video is going to be pretty raw, pretty uncut. And I mean, as you can see, I have no notes, no nothing. I do have a phone, which is going to be going down over here, heads down, so I can focus and just give you guys the raw truth, because I wanted to just come on here and just record and talk about what it really takes to build a 7-figure business. And I'm not just talking 7 figures in revenue. I'm talking about 7 figures in the bank account. When you file your tax returns and it says that you generated over $1 million. Now, obviously, if you do taxes the right way and you have the right people involved, you can definitely get that number down. But I'm talking about like net, like what you actually take home. You know, when you look at the company expenses, the operating expenses, and you subtract that from the cash that comes through, being left over with $1 million that you generate and you make that goes to your bank account. And I think the first thing to realize with a lot of this is a lot of times you have to kind of fuck your way up to success, and you have to learn through a lot of failures. I mean, that's how it was for me. Like, I'm sure if you look back on a year ago from today, you've probably learned a lot of things. If you haven't, that would be the first prescription I would have for you, is take some time to invest in yourself to really learn. But chances are you probably have, because even where I'm at today, and I was kind of thinking about this last year, it was interesting. I was like, I don't really know what else there is to learn. Like, I feel like I already built the business I wanted. You know, I could learn these things, but like, I feel like there's not really much. Like, that was the conversation I had with myself. And I refused to believe that and accept that. So I just kept finding, because I'm a big believer in finding mentors and people that are on the next level from you. And I think when you do that, there's always going to be something you learn. And I try to find like a same group of people that I continue to invest in, because as long as they're leveling up, I can level up. And that's the big thing you want to look at, is making sure that you're constantly leveling up. Because like, going back to that story, is I didn't know really what else I could learn. And I was just naive in the moment with that. And that was never really a point for me specifically, because, you know, I always grew up investing into coaches, mentors to help me grow. And we hit our milestones, and, you know, last year was a really good year. It was the best year I've ever had in my life and the most money I've ever had in my life. And it kind of just got me to a point where I was like, I don't know what's next. But as you continue to grow and you continue to run into more bottlenecks and more issues, you're forced to learn more things. So that would be the biggest recommendation right off the bat, is force yourself to failure. Force yourself to break, because it's going to force you to level up. I like using gym analogies a lot. And one of them is, you know, when you go to the gym, in order to grow your muscles, you have to max out. You have to go until failure. And it's the same thing with running a business. Like, it's never just going to be a smooth line up, contrary to a lot of what people promote on social media. It's like, hey, do this and I'll scale you up here. And, you know, sometimes, I'm not going to lie, you might see that from some of my content too and be like, this guy's crazy. I get it. It's just like, that's what, unfortunately, the industry likes to hear and likes to see. Is, I don't know why you guys like it, like pictures of stripes, screenshots. I personally hate showing like income statements. It's my least favorite thing in the world to do, but it's like, it's the best type of converting ads. I digress. If you want to get to $1 million in your bank account, you've got to really understand how the business operates and, more importantly, how to be a CEO. Now, there's a couple different ways you can do this. You could be the CEO that just grinds, and eventually maybe hits a burnout and just stacks a lot of profit himself or herself. Or you could do it more of a strategic way that's more of a long-term growth. I personally did it more of the strategic way that's a long-term growth, because my business now, I could step away for 3 weeks and it would still operate. Whereas if you go the route of like just being a very small margin team, and I see a lot of people out here talking about this, like build a $100,000 a month, multi six-figure a month business and have these extremely high margins, and you don't really work that much. And it's like, people that tell you that's full of shit. If you want to have a business that supports you and your lifestyle, you have to dip into margin, right? Like that's a big misconception in the space, is like when people say, oh, I made $1 million, unless they're one person's show, and unless everything's based off of organic traffic and they don't have to spend anything, which is nearly impossible in business, they're not keeping that $1 million. So what I like to aim for in a business when you have a full team is around a 50% profit margin is kind of like the goal that you want to be. And obviously some months are going to be better than others. Some are going to be lower, but like, realistically what I've seen in this space, anywhere from like a 40 to 60, we have some clients operating with a full team at 70% margins, but I'd say like 50 is kind of like that medium point that you want to be at. So with that in mind, going to what I'm saying on here with the next step that I want to talk about is understanding where to allocate your time. So I had one of my clients come over to my house for a mini VIP day the other day, which by the way, we've ran 3 of those in the last week, something we kind of randomly came up with, and people just, I personally love them. They're so much fun. If I could do them every day, not every day, if I could do 2 times a week, I definitely would. It's a lot of time commitment. Anyways, he came over the other day, and he's, I've consulted him a little bit on like kind of starting the business. And then he bought into our program, our higher level, to get more access to me and everything. And he came over for a mini VIP day the other day, and he's doing around $20K a month. And keep in mind, he just started this business like less than 2 months ago. And we kind of broke down what it really takes for him to scale to that 6-figure a month mark. And a lot of it wasn't the how-tos, the how to run ads, which I'll cover, I'll get into that. We did. But the biggest majority for him, the biggest takeaway was him really stepping into a CEO role and like understanding how the business is going to progress and where to put that margin and how to grow it the right way. Because I'm a big believer, as I was talking about previously, is building the business so it's sustainable rather than something that relies 100% on you. Now, I think when you first start the business, your first 6 months in the business should be you like super dialed in, building out a lot. Like I'm a big believer of knowing how to do everything inside my company. If everything crashed inside my company today, or let's just say everybody quit, I could still run the whole thing myself. I wouldn't want to. It'd be a lot of fucking work, but I could do it because I've been an employee in every section of my business. So I want you to think about, as you're building a business, each section, each department you're in, you are an employee in that department. So if you're doing sales, you're a sales rep. If you are doing ads, you are media buying. If you are doing fulfillment, you are client success. And start building SOPs and documenting yourself along each way. Because once you do that, let's say you have 10 sales calls, 10 fulfillment calls, 10 videos of you creating ads, whatever it might be, 10 videos of you managing finances. You can start building SOPs around that. And the beautiful part is we have ChatGPT now and all this AI where you can just plug that in and say, hey, build me an SOP based off of this transcript of this video, and it builds it out within seconds. Previously, we weren't able to do that. It would take, either myself or a VA or someone to really build that out, and it would take a lot of time. But going from there is like really understanding your time. I think one of the best positions you can hire right away is what I call a mini-me. Other people refer to it almost as kind of like your executive assistant. But I like to, if you're a 1-person show or less than a 5-person show and you don't have a mini-me on the team, someone that is wanting to be like you and you can train them in positions and figure out where they're best fit, that would be one of the best recommendations I would get, because you could build somebody into a mini you that grows in the business and eventually becomes like COO, or they have more of a leadership responsibility, because eventually, you're gonna have to build out these departments. And in order to build out the departments successfully, you need somebody that knows the business inside and out. So understanding the time going into finding your mini-me or executive assistant, and again, you can get executive assistants super cheap. It depends on how far you want to go with it. But like my client that came over and we broke down his business, the first thing we did was kind of audit where he's spending a lot of his time. We noticed for him, he was doing a lot of content, which he had someone coming with him that he was paying hourly to do the content, but then he would do the editing himself. And I was like, all right, I looked at the editing, super basic, which I loved, by the way. I was like, keep up this exact strategy, is working for you. But your editing isn't anything crazy. Like a VA for $5 an hour could take over your editing. So that was the first prescription I gave him, is like, let's start removing you and focusing on your time, because his time is best spent on sales and fulfillment right now in content. Those are the 3 categories I put him in. And I showed him like how to break it down. So as he's going from 30K a month to 50K a month to 100K a month, how to reverse and get more of that time. And my recommendation for him and for anyone watching this is stay in sales as long as you can. That should be like the last part that you hire out, because fulfillment, yeah, your product might be special, but you can teach it to somebody, right? And I always look into my current clientele list of bringing in coaches to help with fulfillment. You don't have to replace fulfillment 100%, but in his scenario, what I recommended was, okay, because he was doing one-on-one calls, we wanted to move into a group coaching model, so there's more one-on-one time for him. And what I recommended is like still give the one-on-ones until you get to the point where you can't anymore, and then bring on a coach to substitute to do more of the one-on-ones for you. Then your clients get access to you on group coaching calls. So then your time can be more spent on sales and overall fulfillment and product development as the CEO of the business. And that's how I built my business. I mean, inside my company, every coach in my company was a client at one point. And the question then becomes, how do you get people to stop what they're doing or put more time into your business? And the answer to that is culture and vision. So if you don't have your mission, vision, and values written down, I would highly recommend you do that. It's something I personally took a while to do, because I was like, oh, it's not that important. But I promise you, as soon as you start bringing on team members, you will lose people unless you have that clear vision and direction of where you're going. Because also when you have vision, mission, vision, and values, you can hold people to the highest standard based off that. A little caveat to that, and what I would recommend is build out your list, write down everything you think of, and then simplify it. One of the values inside my company is simple scales, complex fails. So when I first built out the values, I had like 25 of them. And I was like, I went through them on a call with the whole team one time. I was like, this is very long. This isn't simple. So what I did was just go back, and I was like, all right, well, I'm not even living by my own values inside my own company. So what I did was essentially go back and simplify everything. And now we have like 8, I think we might have added one more. So we have like 9. Again, simple scales, complex fails. I built it, so I simplified everything. Which goes in the next step, as I would recommend for you as you build your business. Keep it as simple and as lean as possible, because no matter how fast you grow, it will get complex. And your job as a CEO is to remove the complexity so it stays stupid simple. The most successful businesses I've seen are the most simple ones. Now, as you start building on a team and you have other departments, you can get more complex, and then it's the department's job to keep things simple. But as a CEO, if you have multiple department heads, it's very hard to manage everything. So that's why it's very important to have the right type of people in there. Which goes into the people side of stuff, is you need to make sure that you're bringing on the right type of talent. Now, as you're getting started, if you're doing less than 100K a month, less than 7 figures a year, it's gonna be hard to attract and keep A player talent. Again, culture has a big effect on that, so that's gonna be one way that you can do it, but you probably can't afford A player talent right off the gate. I couldn't when I first started. So you have a couple options. You can either dip into the B and C pool, which isn't a terrible thing. Everyone says you only have to have A players, and like, you don't only have to have A players. If you only have A players, you're gonna have a very high payroll every month, right? Which is a good and bad thing, but like getting started, it's impossible to only have A players. So when people tell you, oh, go get A players, like, it's way easier said than done, I'll tell you that. But the solution I found is you invest into those B and C players and bring them up to A player mentality. It's one of the best ways to get great talent for a good price is tipping into your pool and then investing your time and energy into building those people up from B and C players to A players. Now, if you have the capital, it goes directly to the A players, but not everybody has that. Most of you were probably like me when you're starting this, is bootstrapping your company up from literally the money you're making to reinvest back into grow. And the people that tell you, oh, only get A players, they're the people that have been doing this for years and years and years and years and just have a lot of capital stacked aside, or they're just not telling you the same thing I'm telling you right here is you got to start your way up. So once you have those positions in play, it really comes down to, I guess, taking a step back even before that is you have to understand your KPIs, because really growing from, let's just say 6 figures to 7 figures, it's not really that difficult, if I'm being honest with you. It's just knowing your numbers, and it's doing more of what's working. A lot of times when I see people try scaling and they don't hit the numbers they want, it's because they don't fully understand their business. They don't understand their numbers. Because think about it. If you can understand how much it costs to acquire a client, then you can just reverse engineer the math, right? If it costs $1,000 to acquire a client, you charge $5K, you pocket $4K, then it's just a numbers game. If you want to, and again, if we break it down even more, if your cost per booked appointment is $200, well, if you're spending $200 a day on ads and you're like, dude, I want to book out my entire calendar, why am I not booking out my calendar? You're only spending $200 a day on your ads. Well, reverse engineer the math. If it's $200 to book an appointment and you're spending $200 a day on ads, you're going to, on average, get 7 book calls in a 7-day period. And you're not gonna book a call every day because ads aren't like a day-to-day basis. Stop thinking day-to-day, start thinking bigger. I like to look at things on a quarterly basis, a monthly basis, and then if I'm really dialing in things, 14-day basis at the max. Get rid of that day-to-day vision. It will completely fuck with your mind. So going back to that was one of the conversations I had with my client that came over. We were breaking down his numbers and he's like, I want my setter to be more efficient. We're not booking enough calls, blah, blah, blah. So I looked into it and his cost per call booked is like $100, or it was $150. And he's spending $100 a day on ads. And I was like, well, dude, with this, you're averaging about 5 book calls a week. And you probably have like one day where you book 3 and then maybe another day where you book 1 and 1. And the other days you're like, why am I not booking more calls? It's because you don't understand your numbers. You need to understand how to grow your business. That's the job of a CEO and the person in charge of finances and KPIs. You need to understand what is logical behind what you're producing. Now, is there ways to make that more efficient? Absolutely. So we looked into his setting process and realized that he had one setter that was on a different time zone. He wasn't working from, I think it was like 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. EST, which is the biggest, one of the biggest shifts when it comes to booking appointments, especially in his industry. So we're like, all right, well, let's just bring on another setter. So you have 2 setters inside here so you can be more efficient. And with that, if you increase your response rate from 4 to 5 hours to like every, 10 to 15 minutes at max, you're going to be more efficient. Your cost per call book is going to go down, and then you can scale from there. And that's where a lot of people don't really understand it is they look at their KPIs and they just settle with it like, okay, this is it, let me scale it. You can do that. It's going to be more pricey. But what I like to do when I'm looking at a business and helping them scale is breaking down the business to be more efficient to scale. And if you try scaling something that's too complex, too many team members and not efficient enough, it's going to break. And that's why I always say simplify it and make it as efficient as possible, then scale it. Which goes into the next point that I'll leave you with on here, and then we'll probably wrap this up, is you need to push your business to break. A lot of people think that's a bad thing is when your business breaks, but in reality, it's a good thing. If we go back to the analogy of going to the gym And building your muscles, in order for your muscles to build, you have to hit failure and max out. Like that's the whole point of like maxing out reps. The reason you do that at the gym is so you can build muscle. It's the same thing in your business. And that's why like, I think being an athlete or being committed to the gym goes a long way with business, because if you can build that discipline in the gym, it's the same thing in business. It's like you're kind of doing it twice, but it's like another hobby, you know? So my recommendation is build your business to be efficient and build it so that it breaks. And then once you do that, once it breaks, then you go back to the drawing board and then you fix the things that you need to. Like I always talk about having like different seasons inside a company, right? Like you have a growth season, you have a maintenance season, you have like an investing season. And for me and my company, every Q1, we basically go back into a maintenance stage. So Q3 and 4 are usually our biggest months. And then Q1 and Q2, we're rebuilding. So we purposely on Q4 have our biggest month, and then Q1 we come back and kind of like re-break it. We break everything in Q4 and come back in Q1 and reanalyze who do we need to hire, what do we need to be more efficient in, what do we need to break, what do we need to add, what do we need to remove, basic things like that. Because when you have those, when you do a structure like that, and again, everyone's going to be different, but it gives you the ability to really grow strategically and long term. I see it a lot of times where people will just go up and then they go straight down, because they don't understand that there's different seasons inside your company. And the last little tip I'll give you on this is when it comes to growing a business, if you've never built a business to 7 figures, you're gonna need to find someone to help you get there. It's like going to the gym. If you've never had a 6-pack, what's the best way to get a 6-pack? You hire somebody that has a 6-pack. If you want bigger arms, and you've never built big arms before, what's the best way to get bigger arms? You find someone that's been there, done that. And like, that's where you have to understand business is investing. You get to the point inside your business as being the investor. And that's where I'm at inside my company. And honestly, my favorite part to play is I'm the investor in my company. I'm looking at the department saying, hey, I'm gonna allocate this amount of money this quarter here. I'm gonna allocate this amount of money here. I'm gonna take this money and I'm gonna invest it here into this software. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna invest there. But in order to get 7 figures, all of your investing is stupid simple. You have to invest for growth, but you also have to invest into guidance. And people go, well, I just don't wanna have to keep hiring mentors and paying different people and stuff like that. And it's like, I'll tell you this right away. I started 7 years ago. There hasn't been a period where I haven't been investing into people to help me grow, to sharpen my skill sets. Because when you break, there's always something new, and you need to find someone that can help you get there. Sure, you can figure it out yourself, but I look at time as the most valuable currency. And if I can shortcut my time to get to where I need to be, things become a lot easier. And I think that's the biggest hurdle for a lot of people when they're first getting started, when they first start making money, is they want to keep all the profits themselves. And I understand you have to be able to pay yourself, live a good life and everything. But if you really want to take this business serious, you have to understand that as the CEO, your job is allocating funds to the right way. And I think the easiest way to do that is by finding one coach, one mentor that can get you to where you need to be, and just stay with them. Like if you can find one person that continues leveling up, and you can just ride their whole wave, you're shortcutting the entire curve. But where a lot of people mess up is they'll invest into one coach, they'll see some success, but then they'll invest into somebody else, and the other person teaches something that's contradictory to the other person, and then they get too confused. I've made this mistake, and I see it a lot. So my biggest recommendation is, and again, regardless if it's me or somebody else, if you already have a mentor and you're seeing results, double down on that. Now here's the caveat. Not every mentor or coach thinks the same way of what I'm telling you right here. I'm constantly leveling up because I have to. Because my clients are getting so great of results that they're growing that it's forcing me to grow, which I fucking love. It's amazing. And also I'm kind of addicted to this game where I'm like, I keep wanting to level up, which I think anyone that gets into business is kind of in that same position that I'm in, is like, it's a constant leveling up. And that's really what it comes down to. It's like playing a video game. How do you get to the next level? How do you unlock that next level? And a lot of it is just information that's out there. So keep in mind, the information that's free online is free for a reason. If you really want to level up fast, you have to find the right type of person and listen to everything that they say. So I hope this video was helpful for you. I'm on a YouTube sprint right now, so if there's anything specific you want to see or want to dive in more detail, drop in the comments. I'm personally checking everything, and I'm building this content around what you guys need, because if I'm being fully transparent, the whole purpose of me building this content is to help you make more money. So if you make more money, eventually you can come back and be like, wow, this Justin guy, he knows what he's talking about. Let me invest into him to learn how to grow faster. So that's kind of where I'm spending my time right now, is giving out more value so that you guys can level up as well. And again, even if it's with me or with somebody else, it's perfectly fine. But that's just my kind of game plan. You know, I want to be honest with you as well too, because it does take a lot of time out of my schedule to create these videos. But one, I love doing it. And two, I think it could really help you out as well too. So the more you're involved, the more you let me know what helps you, the better we can grow together.